I told you, time and time again, it didn't matter how many heroes you sent or where they were from. Didn't matter how many universes it would take, because deep down you already know, Watcher. We're in the universe where I already won.
What's happening, internet? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrian, aka Fomex Cosplay. If you're new to my channel, I make a lot of cosplay tutorials, fan films, movie and TV reviews, fitness and fandom, and everything else in between. So if you like my content, please make sure to leave a like, comment, definitely subscribe to my channel. If you can't tell by the helmet I'm wearing right now, Marvel's What If just ended. So I finally decided to get back into it and make Ultron's helmet from Marvel's What If. Without further ado, let's do it. As with all my other projects, the first step was sketching out a design or blueprint, and I divided the helmet into several parts. The first part being the mask portion, which goes up and down. The next part being the base helmet, which is, well, front, back, and side. And then the side antenna, which connect to the main helmet. I needed the sketch to get the general shape that I wanted out of each piece, and once I was satisfied, I then moved on to making the mask portion. I freehanded the main portion of the mask, and then I just drew lines to get the exact measurement that I wanted, make sure that both sides were mirrored, and once I was satisfied, I cut the base out. I then drew on the details of the mask, so those are the lines which I was gonna carve out later, as well as the areas where the raised craft foam was going to go. Once again, EVA foam and craft foam were my best friends for this project. I then set out to cut the eye holes. Make sure you have a really sharp knife for this, or else if it's dull, it's gonna leave a lot of fibers. Don't be afraid to just sand it out later and then cut out more small pieces of the eye holes. I then cut out the Mind Stone, which was gonna be reinserted back later, as well as carve out the details on the mask. After that, I then made the raised portion of the mask in craft foam. I just measured it out and then cut it, and then I used contact cement, contact adhesive to place it on top of the mask. Once it was nice and snug, I then cut out a hole where the Mind Stone was going to go, and I did not glue that in place yet because I knew I was gonna detach it again later. Last for the mask portion was heating it up and then shaping it so that it would round itself out and then it would fit around my face a bit better. Next up, we're making the mask extensions. These were the ones that would pivot up and down. This is where I was going to attach it to the base helmet. So I just cut that out of my EVA foam again, mirrored it, and then glued it on with the contact adhesive, no problems. Next up would be the gold portion of the main mask, which I was making out of simple craft foam. So just get the shape right and then glue it on and let it hug all of the bottom part of your mask. Just to make it look a bit more like the curves in Iron Man's helmet, I then pushed it a bit downwards, folded it a bit downwards. With the mask done, it was now time to move on to the base helmet, which I first got the template of by wrapping my head in cling wrap. Make sure that you have enough room in it to breathe. I then wrapped that in duct tape, so it only went slightly past my ears and above my forehead. Basically, you're only making a helmet that goes up to halfway on your head. Happy with my template, I then cut it in half and then cut it a bit more so that I could spread it flat on another piece of EVA foam. Once I did that, I drew the template on and then I cut it out, mirroring it on another piece of EVA foam so that I could get both sides. Both sides ready, it was time to glue them in place. So I just used contact adhesive, waited for it to dry, rolled it into place and shaped it as well. So I just heated it up and then I rolled it on the table so that they would stick in place. Once the two halves were stuck together, I then filled it in and made sure that it stayed together with a long strip of craft foam. After that, I added another set of extensions to the main mask, and this was where the helmet itself would get connected to the mask. Connection was very simple. I just made stubs out of hot glue sticks, and then I drilled holes in with the pencil and then with scissors, shoved that in, and then created holes on both sides, and that way I could combine the mask and the helmet but if I really wanted to, I could still raise the mask up like a visor, just like in the show. I then added the chin strap area using a simple strip of craft foam, that way it could remain flexible and I wasn't gonna lose any space inside the helmet. Now it's starting to look like Ultron. Using another layer of craft foam, I then made the aesthetically pleasing version of the chin area, and I carved it so that I could get the right patterns. With the base helmet done, I made the ear connectors, which were just 2 layers of EVA foam stuck on top of each other. I added a line, carved out a line, and then that was where the antennae would attach to. To make the antennae pieces, I just made 4 banana-shaped pieces out of EVA foam, and the way that I stuck them together was the top parts go together, you glue them. The bottom parts go together, you glue them. You do not glue the middle parts until you shove another strip of EVA foam. That way, it would open up and yet taper, just like way Ultron was designed in the show. So if it looks like it's shaped like a banana, you're doing okay. Once the designs were carved out and it was nice and set, I then glued the pieces together and then I glued them to the mask portion of the helmet, right at the end. That's basically the main assembly done. I then went over all of the holes with wall repair cream, just so there wouldn't be any awkward giant holes in the design. I tried to smooth it out as best as I could, and once it was ready, it was time to go outside and paint it. First step for painting was, of course, as usual, primer black. I use rubber spray paint. Make sure you get both sides and then leave it to dry. After that, I went back outside and I hit it with normal silver spray paint. I did several layers of that. Once that was ready, I then brought it inside the hand paint. The cel-shaded animation design made it different from the realistic MCU costumes. So I could afford to paint on lighting, I could afford to paint on effects, which is what I did, just to give this a bit more life, just to make it look a bit more animated and cartoonish. So I went over all of the carved areas with black acrylic paint and I just painted strips on. Wasn't my cleanest work, but it really made it pop, made it look a lot more like it belonged on a cartoon show, which was the effect I was going for. I then painted the areas around the eyes red, because I knew that I didn't have any red tint with me, so this was how I was gonna get the red effects. As for the gold areas, I just painted those gold, and then I painted around them with black just to make them pop out more. For the Mind Stone, I just painted that bright green. Of course, I painted the area around it bright green and a bit of white as well, just to indicate brightness. And then I finished off with some white paint, some silver paint, just to make them, just to add some highlight, so lights and more shadow. And that was the painting done. The very last thing I did was I stuck on a piece of black tint. You couldn't really tell it was black, it kind of blends in with the red. So it worked out very well for me. And with that, my Ultron Vision helmet from Marvel's What If was done. This is my best helmet to date and I'm extremely pleased with how it turned out. It looks animated, it looks like it came out of a cartoon, which is good, and the visor goes up and down just like the show. So overall, I'm very pleased with how this turned out. And that was how I made Ultron's helmet from Marvel's What If. Until next time, props to you, and costumes too. Peace.